Then, because we got to end this soon, I'll cram this in. The next show I think I started on was Cram. Once again, Bob Bowden came in, and Bob. Oh yeah, of course. This was for Game Show Network, and I'm pretty sure Bob was still at Game Show Network at that point. Bob was VP again. Bob was VP everywhere. Bob either was at Game Show Network or he just come from the. So he said, no, you got to have a real game show guy in there. And whenever you shove, like with Love Connection, whenever you shove somebody in there, everybody's going to go, whoa, I don't really want this guy in. So I started a week after everybody else. I walked in, and it was the only time I sensed animosity for no apparent reason other than they were all 20 years old, pretty much. I mean, 20, 22, 24, and I was maybe 45, 47, something like that, pushing 50. I'm 67 now. Yeah, it just, from day one, I just didn't get good vibes. I remember the very first, I should explain the show. That's going to take too long. But Cram, in 3 sentences, we'll see if I can do this. There'll be long sentences. Cram was two couples competing, and they were given 24 hours to learn a diversity of things, and that they would have to cram for the next day, like cramming for a test, okay? However, you never knew what the subject matter would be. Some of them were physical. You'd have to learn all the positions of yoga, for example. And then the next day, without any sleep, you would have to go out on stage. And when we said the lotus position, you got to be in the lotus position. We'd also then give them a book of riddles, okay? You got to study and memorize chapter 2 of this riddle book. Then you pick another subject, post-impressionism, famous post-impressionists. You must learn Cezanne and Van Gogh and Monet, etc. So you start the show off that way. Then we shoot them cramming. We send them off to cram chambers, which were on Hollywood Boulevard, and there was a window that was open to passerbys, and that was part of the show. The people said, what the hell are these people doing in there? And then they come back to the studio, and through a series of events, they would basically have to remember everything they learned. Anyway, I only stayed with the show a few weeks because I just did not fit in. I didn't fit in. They didn't care much for me. I remember the very first stunt I did was conveyor belt. We'd all done I Love Lucy, what we would call the I Love Lucy candy relay, which is famous I Love Lucy. The chocolates come out too fast, you got to put the chocolate in, those kind of things. What I did for Cram, we were doing, what's it called? Sorry, brain fart, we call it. Senior moment. Not types of beef, but this is brisket, this is flank.
Cuts of beef.
I'm sorry?
Cuts of beef.
Cuts. Thank you. That's the word I couldn't come up with. Cut. Okay. Cuts of beef. So coming down the conveyor belt, we'd have, a tenderloin. And again, they would have to learn, we'd give them a big picture of a cow and in pieces, and we'd have this meat coming down, and presumably it was fine, whatever, but they didn't like it. Any stunt that I came up with, many of which were variations on things that I did, they just didn't seem to like it. So we parted ways after a few weeks because, again, I was hard pressed. I guess maybe I didn't want to work that hard, or I don't know what the circumstance was, but I didn't want to have to cram like they were. There was no way I could judge the yoga positions when it came to tape day unless I knew the yoga positions, meaning there's no way I can watch you getting into a yoga position and look at the book and see if by the time I look back and forth, we'd have to stop tape because I'm taking too long to do it. So the whole idea of me memorizing that, or even, coming down to riddles, trying to remember or look down at the riddle book it was just, for me, it was an unproducible show at that point. Perhaps if I was more comfortable in the circumstances, people that I'd worked with, I might have done a better job or gotten along better with the people, but I just didn't. So I crammed.